I think we're at the beginning of the technology that's about to basically begin to evade and invade our homes. I think we're at the very beginning. Like, if you think that we're surrounded by technology now, I believe that in the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to be in every facet. Like, you won't be able to buy a vanity without a smart plug. It's going to be able to plug, or it's going to be able to read Bluetooth your phone, and while you brush your teeth, the weather come up. Like, all that's it's already developed. Most of the time, the reason you don't have it is because companies want to make sure they get the investment off the product that's on the shelf. That's the reason you don't have it, right? So they just kind of delay it. We need to get our money back on the new stuff, the stuff we put out in 2023, 24. And then once we get our money there, then we'll put the new stuff on the shelf. That's how it goes. I know that from being in retail and merchandising. Okay. We have to get really thoughtful and practice wisdom in terms of what we adapt. Is the smartphone, there's a scripture that says everything in moderation. I'm with that. Is the smartwatch all bad? I think it's phenomenal for my workouts. I wear it to the gym. I still wear it to the gym. I get up in the morning. I charge it the night before. I get up in the morning. I put the smartwatch on. I go to the gym and do my workout. I shower with it on and get all the sweat off, and then I put it back up. I don't wear it all day. And what I did was I just invested in some nice watches, like old school, analog, where I was like, I'm going to wear these watches instead, and I'm not wearing my smart watch everywhere else, Like, just notice how we're being marketed to. We're being marketed to. And so a lot of what we want, a lot of the things that we desire is because of what we're being marketed. And so instead, I think we have to get to a point where we're like, hey, what's going to allow me to live the life that I intend to live? And just because everybody else is doing it doesn't mean I have to. Is because I've been asking myself, like, how much do we know about the Supreme Court's decision to strike down Chevron deference? But then the other part of me is like, in my opinion, I don't know that it really matters. And then what's interesting is when you get on social media, influencers, depending on what side of the political spectrum they play on, everybody has an opinion. And the topic today is part 3 of how we are being poisoned. So let me just say this in terms of my thoughts on the Supreme Court's recent decision. If you're waiting on the Supreme Court to protect you, if you're waiting on the government to protect you, if you're waiting on the Democrats to protect you or the Republicans to protect you, you're going to be waiting a long, long time. And in the meantime, the collateral damage that might happen to you and your family could be irreversible. Now, let me explain why I say that. Because this is part 3 of how we are being poisoned. And if you don't know what the recent decision on Chevron deference is, Supreme Court, here's a little, I guess I'll do it like 2-minute. So basically back in 1984, the Supreme Court decided that government agencies such as the FDA and all the they call them the alphabet series, right? But all of them, EPA, et cetera, would have a bit more control over themselves, like, so, you know, self-appointed, actually not self-appointed, presidentially appointed leaders of these different agencies that would basically make decisions. So that in itself tells you that if it's president appointed, that means that it could be Democrat leaning. And by the way, if you didn't support my campaign, and not that it was, I'm not saying that ever happened, by the way. I'm just saying that if it's based on the president who gets selected to lead these agencies, then really if your guy didn't win, or let's say Republicans won and they don't like big government, they want to give corporations the ability to do what they're going to do, well, then corporations, things eased up. And then if, let's say, your guy won and he was a Democrat and they want to take away, they want to actually provide more regulation. At least that's when you think about these two parties, that's kind of like how it goes, right? Then they would tighten things up. Now, what's interesting to me is that the individuals that lead these agencies typically work for large companies that they are supposed to be controlling. So there's some, what do you call that? You know, I don't know. It's incestuous. Let's put it like that. And this happened in 1984. And since this happened, we've seen more products that will hurt us get into our food. And this is why I'm saying this, because some people, like, they're like, I feel a certain way about this. And it's like, we already got issues. Whatever the Supreme Court decided when it comes to our food, our clothes, our environment over this past week, it's not about to change anything because it's already horrible. It's already bad. And as I go through part 3, I think you're going to be a bit more shocked than you've been. And I'm saying that because often I think sometimes we get really distracted and then we make these decisions on whose side we're on. And it's like, we just got to stay educated. We got to, as individuals, especially as a community, we have to stay educated and realize that in many ways we are in this alone. Relying on a particular party or a particular president or particular elected official is not the way. Because if it were the way, then I would imagine back in 2008, everything would have changed for us. 2008 to 2016. Right? And it did not. So if there were a silver bullet in the candidate, that was probably the closest shot that we had. And as we can see, at least for anyone who does a little deep research, that candidate was indeed already connected to the wealthy. And, well, what did we end up getting? Not much. Pretty much the same situation we've always been in. So there's a cliche that says, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And as I go into what I'm going to share today, like, I think it's, in some ways, not so much shame on us, but we got to wake up. And I think we have to become a bit more skeptical about the things that we buy, about the clothes that we put on our backs. Like, we just have to get a bit more skeptical. And I think our skepticism is often leaning in places where it really doesn't help us. Is President Biden healthy? I mean, for his family and his sake, I hope so. But how is that going to immediately help me? And by the way, these are the things that dominate our conversations. And I want to talk about something today that I think should be dominating our conversation in a very different way. I'm afraid that it's actually a bit more than the eating, you guys. And that's what I want to get into today. A few tips that hopefully you can use to begin battling, in some ways, the fatigue that Slayer Goals members talked about. That's over and beyond food. I mean, even after detoxing, et cetera. So then how we are being poisoned. How else might we be being poisoned right now? And so we did this research, and what we found, I've talked about the water already. I mean, as human beings, 70% of our body is made up of water. I would say drink water out of a glass as much as possible. If you can filter your water at home, filter your water as much as possible. That's just, and don't get your filtration system on sale or your Brita. Like get the best one you can buy. I mean, your water is essential because sometimes it's funny to me how we do ourselves, right? Like you'll go buy a luxury item that's not on sale, full price, but then when it comes to your health and well-being, organic vegetables are too expensive, and that filter is too expensive. And it's like that's where we should be splurging. You should be splurging on organic vegetables, expensive filters, and then what's left, maybe you can go and use on luxury items, right? If that is, what you do. All right. So here's what I want to talk about. So when we looked up this thing around fatigue, one of the things that came up was the exposure that we have as human beings to electromagnetic frequencies, EMFs in particular. And this exposure was there's more prolonged exposure to EMFs, high levels of EMFs than ever before. And one of the things that this causes, like if you're someone where this has been going on for you, is prolonged exposure to high frequency EMFs causes headaches, fatigue, sleep disturbances, and stress, and then more concerning, certain types of cancers. So then the next step of research was, all right, well, what has the highest, electromagnetic frequencies that we're using in the household? So that's the next step in research that we did. We're like, okay, so if EMFs are a problem, then what devices or what appliances do we currently have in our households that are generating high levels of EMFs that we didn't know about before? And again, like this comes back to what I was saying to open the show around Chevron deference, because nobody said, well, hold on now, that's going to hurt. That's going to hurt people. And so we're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe what happened. I'm telling you, we have got to start paying attention and just saying, oh, Apple just came out with a new product. That's great, but what could it do to my brain if I wrap it around my head? Right? Oh, that AirPod in my ear, what can that be doing to my brain? It's so close to my brain. What could that be doing to my life? We have, as a community, as people, we have got to get a bit more skeptical. Because if I came and tried to sell you all something, right, believe me, there's high levels of skepticism. Even I talked about Ghana a moment ago. People be like, do you really transform over there? Right? I mean, so there's lots of skepticism, I think, for sometimes things that are low gradient versus the things that are high gradient that will impact our health. So what we did is we created a list of the top 10 household items that emit EMFs, electromagnetic frequencies, by the amount of EMFs they emit. So that way, so this is ranked from number 1 being the absolute worst for you and number 10 being towards the bottom. Okay, the top 10. And so that's what we did in our research. Now, let me say this before I go through the top 10. Last week I was supposed to share this, and I didn't. And the reason I didn't is because one of the things that I understand is that as human beings, transformation is difficult. And that's why we had the whole conversation about transformation. Because you'll hear this and be like, oh my God, I need to change. And then a week later, there'll be the same behavior. And so you have to get very clear on why. Why listening to this might be like, oh my goodness, and then why you're going to change it. Because the reason they can sell us these things and these devices is because we have now grown addicted or we've made them necessary in our everyday life. And so how are you going to change your behavior? So let me go to number one. Number one is a Wi-Fi router or modem. Number one, by far emits the most electromagnetic frequencies in your home. If you have a Wi-Fi router in your bedroom or any of the places where you spend your time, you must move it. Like, you have got to move it. Now, let's talk a little bit about electromagnetic frequencies. Because EMFs, like the human body emits its own frequency, right? Every human being. And so think about yourself as a living being. You emit a frequency that can go up to about 3 meters or more outside your body, right? This is how we can feel a person's vibe. You know, like, your vibe is killing me, bro, right? I mean, that's because we can feel sometimes what another person is feeling based on the frequencies that we emit. They say, you know, basically look at the 4 or 5 people you hang out with, and they can tell you, well, because you guys are emitting frequencies, and eventually those frequencies will match. So then if you enter something else like a Wi-Fi router in a place where you're sleeping or watching television or whatever it is, where you're resting, then that is disturbing your natural frequency. And this is why it creates the headaches, fatigue, sleep disturbances, stress on your body. Number 2 is a microwave oven. Now, when I came out with the very first set of poisons in one, there were things, the reason how that came about was I began noticing that there are certain practices that we have in my household that are very different from most households. One of them is we don't use a microwave oven. And what happens is, like, my wife and I, we go through this, you know, slow transformation, evolution. We're like, we shouldn't be using that. No. Like, there's things that we know, and then we slowly kind of wean ourselves off of it to the point where the microwave in our house right now is broken and it doesn't even matter, right? It's just basically, it's there because it looks good, right? Like, we don't want a hole in the middle of everything. So it's like, but nobody turns it on. I mean, we don't use it at all. We warm our food on the oven and stainless steel pots, things like that. Okay. Or on the stove, or in the oven. But we don't use microwave ovens for this reason, and the radiation that it puts into the food, etc. Number 3, smart meters, like the smart meters outside your home. Thank God they're outside your home. But, you know, like if you're having a cookout, you know, be mindful of where you put your seat. You don't want to sit with your head right behind that smart meter for these reasons. And, you know, you would think there'd be a warning sign on it, like, warning, emits high EMFs. This is why I told y'all, like, you know, stop getting worked up about, you know, the chevron deference and all. Like, folks, they weren't taking care of you before. So, like, no matter what happens with this new way of being, we still have to do the work ourselves. Like, we have to do the investigation ourselves, okay? Number 4, your cell phone. And the cell phone ranges. Like, when you plug a cell phone in and you're charging it, it actually emits more harmful EMFs than when it's uncharged, when it's not charged or not plugged in. So you got to be very careful. So for those of us that are charging our phones, in our bedrooms, it really definitely shouldn't be close to the head, but it shouldn't be close to your body. Children, babies, using cell phones and tablets, like it's emitting electromagnetic frequencies. And so we should be thoughtful about that. But to that point, there was research done like years ago by a third party that then went to Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. And this is documented. You can look it up. I always tell you guys, don't believe me. And they found that children looking at these devices was not good for brain development. So they went back to Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and said, hey, you guys created these devices. Did you know this? And they were like, well, I mean, it wasn't created for a child, right? That's what, that was their excuse. And they were like, well, do your children use it? And they were like, no. Right? No. And if they do, they only have, I believe it was Steve Jobs that gave his daughter 30 minutes a day. And she was a teenager, if I'm not mistaken, at the time. 30 minutes a day, because he understood the impact that it had on the brain and the hormone system with the dopamine hit, the consistent dopamine hit that you get. Now, anything that can take a child who, by the way, is like heavily curious about my daughter, she turns 2 in August. I mean, she's into everything. But if you turn on a YouTube video that she likes, she is locked in. If a child, based on its unique characteristics without these devices, is heavily curious, and then the device is turned on and they lack curiosity, how could that over long periods of time be healthy for the child? And so anyway, that's number 4, cell phones and tablets. That was about the EMFs. Now I'm talking about the brain development in terms of just watching it. Take the EMFs out. The brain development for a child, just watching it, is not good. And there's research that shows that children who have high exposure to screen time have both developmental and behavioral issues. So think of that not just as EMF poisoning, but also in some ways poisoning our intellect, or the intellect of our children. Number 5, cordless phones. Well, I mean, for the most part, we don't have cordless phones in our house anymore. But when I first had a cordless phone, I had no idea. Like back in the 90s, you'd be on that phone. There were no Bluetooths and nothing like that. I had no idea. But they emit high EMFs. Nobody told us. So EMFs. We're just talking about it in the Facebook comments. I'm reading some of this, and already I can see that it's resonating. One comment, I have a friend at work who also always suffers from a headache, and she has a microwave from the 90s in her office. So there you go, right? Little small things that we don't know. Here's the other thing that many offices might have is smaller offices might have Wi-Fi routers, like right there. Like right there, if it's a small office, just a few of you, that router might be right there in the office with you all. And I would say think about ways to get that router outside of the room that you all are in, because those frequencies are so strong. You'll still have, you can step outside the office and still be connected to Wi-Fi. But those frequencies are having an impact on the body. Okay. So I shared the top five, and by the way, the rank matters because number 1, it's emitting the most EMFs. Wi-Fi routers and modems. Number 2, microwave ovens. Number 3, smart meters. Number 4, cell phones and tablets. Sleep with them away from you. Don't charge them in your pockets and stuff like that. Heavy frequencies. Number 5, cordless phones. Number 6 is Bluetooth devices. In particular, I was sharing with the Slayer Goals community that this is likely my last pair of AirPods. Like I probably won't be, when I say probably, I won't be buying another pair, partly because the technology they're putting in Bluetooths, Apple has a patent, and many of you have seen this, where the new AirPods have the potential to actually read your thoughts. Right? Now, that can sound like sci-fi to somebody. Somebody's like, that can't be true. And it's like, no, I mean, the first neural link has already been installed in somebody's brain. They're figuring it out, folks. Like, no, hold on. They're not figuring it out. They figured it out, right? So it's like, not only do I not want something that can be ahead of me from a marketing perspective in terms of what I think about. I haven't even said it. I thought about a new pair of socks. I pick up my phone, and now I'm being advertised socks. Because let's be clear, that's what it's for. It's about generating revenue. But think about how evasive that is. Because I can have a thought that I'm battling. Let's say I'm an alcoholic, and I'm trying to put the bottle down. And I think about a drink, and now I'm getting an advertisement for, hey, this is, it is. We are headed in a direction that if you don't begin developing a new level of discipline, and where does discipline come from? Discipline comes from vision. If you don't have a vision for your life, a very clear vision for your life, from the time I came on WVON to now, I've been on the air for 11 years. There's one part of what I've shared with you all that hasn't changed. And that is how critical purpose is. How critical knowing your life purpose, because now your purpose gives you a vision for life. And that vision for life is how you bring on the discipline that you need in every area of life, in the things I'm talking about. And if you don't have a vision, then the discipline to curb your behavior is going to be very difficult. And that discipline comes from purpose, because purpose gives us a vision for our lives. And I believe it's getting to a point now where no purpose, no health. Is that like, because you won't have the discipline otherwise. So Bluetooth devices. Number 7, computers and laptops. Your computer should not be sitting on your lap when you use it, or your laptop shouldn't be, call it a laptop, but it should not be on your lap. Your computer, like even now, you notice I always set it up higher, right? In my office, it's set up higher. And these are like little practices. And I'm sure people, Ernesto's come in before, you'll be like, why you always take the speaker off? I'm like, I don't want the computer close to me, And he's, okay, man, and it's like, I don't even, I forget why I'm doing it because it becomes such a habit, but I keep it away. Even in my work, I keep it away. Number 8, baby monitors. Well, where's a baby monitor? Typically right next to the crib where the baby's sleeping. It's like, wow, okay, it's transmitting EMFs. Now, the cool thing is number 8, so it's on the lower side. But still important to know. Number 9 is smart home devices. You can turn on your lights and things with your phone. It's emitting a frequency because it's got to communicate. And then number 10 are electrical appliances, your refrigerator. All those things are emitting EMFs, but on a lower level. All right, so number 10. So this is where I want to spend the majority of the remainder of our time when we talk about like what's poisoning us, because this one caught me off guard, and it caught me off guard, and I found myself like, okay, even for my family, we have to do something about this immediately. So pay attention to the clothes you wear. And I know somebody's thinking, all right, Linnell, the clothes? Yes, the clothes. So some of the clothing that we're wearing, especially clothing manufactured with polyester, can contain chemicals that act as endocrine disruptors. So, in part 2 of how we're being poisoned, I talked about endocrine disruptors and how they mess with hormones. I even brought up then like how it can be messing with the cycles of young girls and things like that. Well, in the last 20 years, there's research that shows the testosterone level of men and boys dropping dramatically. And, everybody's like, we don't know why. What's happening to the testosterone? Blah, blah, blah. Well, I think we found it. It's in the clothes. And let me tell you, I take this so like for the brothers listening, if you have boys, young boys, get them out of those polyester underwear. I'm going to go into detail, but get them out. Like, I've just bought my son. What we're doing is, because by the way, this caught me off guard. I didn't know, right? But I bought my son, I think 10 pair of cotton underwear, and then it's like throw away 10 pair, like let's completely shift it out. I explained it to him, because some of the underwear, his Batman, Sonic, he's like, what are you doing to my? No, this is my favorites. It's like, hey man, look, like we got to protect your health. And there's things like there's chemicals that can't get washed out of this stuff, right? And so it's like we got to get it off your skin. Why? Because your skin is like one of the number one absorbent organs on the body. You don't have to be a doctor to know that. Like we know this. It's like, okay. So, but why is that important? I'm saying this because almost every man that I know wants to protect his legacy. Well, where does your legacy come from? Your children and their children, and your son's ability to bear children. This has gone on for millennia, how men think about boys. You can call it what you want, ladies, but this is like, you're never going to take that out of a God-fearing man, right? It's like, in terms of his seed moving on. It's just put inside of us. Okay. All right. So I know the brothers want to protect that. And it's like, man, 100%, if you can, organic cotton. Now, let me say this. Back in 2020, it was 2020, 2021, my mom was sick. This is before she passed, and she was sick. And we were reading the Bible together. So we were going through the Old Testament, and we were reading, and we were holding each other accountable. And when we were in Deuteronomy, there's a scripture, can't remember the exact scripture, where God instructs the children of Israel not to blend fabrics. He's like, don't blend your fabrics, right? And I remember asking my mother, I was like, why couldn't they blend their fabrics? Especially in a world where we blend everything, right? And she was like, Linnell, I don't know. And so we both went on this journey to figure it out, right? And there were other things that we were asking questions because we were like going through it and talking about it. And it was like, I think sometimes we read scriptures and we're like, oh, I don't know, whatever, right? So we just kind of fly past it. There's scripture that says children of Israel should not blend their fabrics. It's like, they was like, hey, I'm giving you the laws. I'm telling you what to do and what not to do. The same way, like, hey, for many of us, that are Bible believers, it's always convenient. I was having this conversation about Romans where the whole conversation with Paul and meat. And it was like swine in particular, where he was like, if you're offered this, you don't want to offend your brother, pray over it, etc. But then I'm not a preacher. I'm not getting into all that. But a lot of us now, it's like, now your plate is full of stuff. You're like, well, it's okay. And it's like, but the Old Testament law, it's something to it, y'all. It's something to it. And you're told what to eat, what not to eat. We were told not to blend fabrics. We didn't pay attention. Now, here's the results. I'm going to share the results, okay? By the way, there's research. I figured it out after my mom passed. the research where fabrics have frequencies. Blending fabrics lower the frequencies of the fabric. If you're wearing blended fabrics like polyester that are bringing down your frequency, that could be the cause of some of your fatigue. But that's not even talking about the chemicals I'm about to go into. Right? Let's just talk blended fabric with no chemicals can pull down your frequency and cause fatigue. Like, why am I so tired? Well, now you know. And now, many of these polyesters and blended fabrics also have chemicals that act as endocrine disruptors, PFAS, phthalates, bisphenol A, which is BPA, bisphenol S, which is BPS, and flame retardants. Oh, I thought that would be good. Wouldn't it be good to put flame retardants on infant pajamas so that way they don't burn up? And it's like, well, if the fire's that close, they're in trouble anyway. Let's be clear. Right, well, no, they could just, and it could catch them, and it could burn them all the way up. And it's kind of like, yeah, maybe we should do better parenting and keep them out of clothes with flame retardants, because I'm going to tell you why in a moment, like what it does to the body. PFAS are polyfluoroalkyl substances. That's the only time I'm going to say that. All right? But that's a PFA. And the way it's used is if you have clothes that are waterproof, stain resistant, it's likely those clothes have PFAS in them. Now, I have some clothes that I was wearing. I've stopped since. Now, this is all recent for me. So this is like, like learning about it and then starting to make the moves, and educating my family and making moves with my family. But like I would wear waterproof, stain-resistant pants on the plane when I'm traveling for work. It makes sense, right? Especially if I have to show up for a client. It's like, if something did spill, I could be like, boom. And I felt good about myself. You like wipe it, oh, look at that. Ha, ha, ha. Yeah, like nothing happened. Well, here are the health concerns of PFAS. PFAS can interfere with hormone function, affecting the endocrine system. They are linked to various health issues, including reproductive problems. So, like if you're a woman and you're late 20s, early 30s, you're not married right now, but you want to have children, I hope you're listening to me. Because, you wonder why some of your girlfriends who like just got married are having issues. And then, the doctor's like, we don't know, but it's okay. And it's like, why is this so prevalent in our society in the 21st century? It's in the clothes. So, including reproductive problems, thyroid disease, and increased risk of some cancers. The clothes. The waterproof, stain-resistant clothes. That's PFAS. Now, phthalates, the reason they use phthalates in synthetic fabrics is because when you put together all these plastics, well, I mean, when you think about plastic, like plastic is, we got something plastic in here. Plastic is, typically, I mean, if you put together some plastic, I got this hand sanitizer in my hand for those of you on Facebook, right? It's going to be pretty tough. So then if I make some pants with the same particular plastics, because, waterproof and all that, and I blend it with polyester, well, won't be that flexible. Until I add the phthalates. And when I add it, now they become flexible and durable. So now I have, this clothing that, really shouldn't be on my back, right? But it gives me this extra flexibility and durability. And by the way, if it rains, I feel protected. Like, man, this is a phenomenal outfit. Well, here are the health concerns. Phthalates are also known as endocrine disruptors. So it's messing with your hormones. And this can also impact reproductive health. Now, you just go Google, because I always tell you all not to believe what I say. Go Google the decrease in testosterone in men in the last 20 years and see what comes up. And then look at how clothes have changed in the last 20 years. And then, you tell me if you see a correlation. I don't think you have to be a scientist for some of this. And I'll get the email, because, sometimes somebody works in a lab and they do all this and I'm in charge of safety. And, what you're saying, you're informing them wrong, Linnell. I'll get these things and you're not credentialed to do this. And I'm like, well, I'm credentialed with common sense. Okay. Like, you can show me your studies and all that. But then when I look at other studies that say humans are currently, suffering from these things, and then we start to look at the time frame for when these clothes were introduced into the market, you can show me all the studies that were paid for by your company. Key phrase, paid for by your company. And I'm just going to look at my common sense and say, well, I don't believe that. It's that simple. Here's the other part. It can impact reproductive health and it can impact fetal development. We know that autism is much higher today than it's ever been. Shouldn't we be better now? Some of this might be coming from what you wear, and it leads to hormonal imbalances. This is the research. This is the rabbit hole I went down. Then we have BPA and BPS, right? Bisphenol A and bisphenol S. And these are used in the production of certain polyester fibers and coatings. I'm going to tell you, I'm afraid of polyester at this point. I'm like, and it's in everything. It is in everything. As a matter of fact, it's difficult to buy a gray heather cotton t-shirt that's not 15% polyester. If it's heather, like that looks like cotton. But the heather, like, what I'm talking about? Ade has on a gray t-shirt. He's probably like, it's like, that looks like cotton though. But the heather, like, to get that certain kind of like look, 15% polyester. Almost always. So here are the health concerns of BPA. Now, some of you all remember, like 10 years ago, we were all throwing away our Tupperware. It has BPA in it. No plastic, no plastic. I would say this. If I'm you, I'm not eating off plastic. As much as possible, I'm not eating off plastic. If I'm you, I'm bringing my own mug to Starbucks. Hey, put my coffee in this because it's plastic coated. We talked about that in part 1. This plastic though, like, man. All right, so then what's the problem with the plastics? Well, BPA and its analogs like BPS can mimic estrogen. That's just part 1. So if something can mimic estrogen, for the women who already, like, you're going through whatever you're going through, like, it's increasing estrogen. So, that might be why our young girls are maturing faster, getting their periods faster. It might be why some women are going into menopause faster. Like, the list goes on. But then what is the impact on estrogen on men and boys? It's not supposed to be there. So now they have something that's mimicking estrogen, like that's being soaked through the skin, going into the body. Well, that can't be good. What does it do? Well, if I read according to here, and disrupt normal hormonal functions. You can draw your own conclusions there. And then, like, combine this. Let's think of young boys. Combine that impact with the lack of male presence. Okay. So these are associated with various health issues such as breast cancer. So this is the other one said like, certain cancers, right? They didn't really go on. This one, BPA, BPS, breast cancer, prostate cancer, and developmental problems in children. I'm going to tell you something. The next time you get on your favorite shopping app and you find plastic clothes for like $2.99, $3.99, I hope you opt for the more expensive cotton. I really do. Like, like I think in some ways we thought we were getting by. Oh my goodness, look how cheap these pajamas are, right? Get 3 pair. Like we thought we were getting by. You will pay eventually, you all. Like you're going to pay eventually. And I don't want to pay in my health or the health of my children and family. And by the way, like this is new for me too. Like, but we had to man, I was like, okay, we got to make a shift here. I'm all the way down to the underwear. Like my favorite underwear was a brand that, they were like, they made specifically for men. It's comfortable. I put them on. I remember the first time I put them on, like maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I'm like, these are amazing. This is great. You go to the bathroom, it's got a special little pocket pouch, like everything's convenient, comfortable, convenient, but they're not cotton. Now they're making them in cotton now, right? It's like, I think they're starting to catch on, like, okay, people want cotton, but they weren't. So I had to replace them all with cotton underwear. My wife, why you buying new underwear? For my health, baby, and for you. Of course, right. All right. Okay. Flame retardant usage. So the next one is flame retardant because, it'd be cool to get flame retardant is a good thing, right? But like I told the Slayer Goals members, like we got to be careful with our furniture too. Very few furnitures today, if they're not leather, are made without flame retardant in it. So now you can do all this with the clothes and then be sitting on a couch, skin exposed, with flame retardant residue on it. So everything that I talk about in terms of flame retardant is now happening to you, right? And these are the kind of things, let me say this, these are the kind of things we will know in the future, but because it doesn't match the design of my living room, I'm like, and like, you can laugh if you want to, you can scoff if you want to, but this is what we do. This is what we do, okay? What are the health concerns for flame retardants? Some flame retardants can disrupt thyroid function and affect brain development in children. So that's the second one that said thyroid. So let's look up what the thyroid actually does. What does the thyroid do? What do you think? We should ask Google, Gemini, or ChatGPT. Which one you say? Gemini? Let's ask Gemini. All right. So we're going to ask Gemini about the function of the thyroid. So we understand how important this is. Where's my Gemini button? Oh, here we go. No. It's not it. I had a Gemini. It would leave now. Here, let's go. All right. We're going to look it up on Gemini. By the way, Gemini is Google's AI. Here it is. Google's AI. Okay. So we're going to ask, can you please explain the function of the human thyroid? Now we're going to put this in. And why it's important that it is healthy. Please bullet point your responses. This is, so you learn how to prompt an AI. Okay. All right, so Gemini is the thyroid gland, a master conductor of your body's function. That's So this is what it says. The thyroid gland, a master conductor of your body's functions. Located in the neck, this butterfly-shaped gland is part of your endocrine system. So endocrine disruptors mess with the thyroid. It produces hormones that act like chemical messengers, reaching practically every cell in your body. So chemical messengers. So think about that, right? So this produces hormones that act like chemical messengers that reach practically every cell in your body. So this makes sense why it calls it the master conductor of the body's functions. All right, the thyroid hormones and their impact. The main hormones of the thyroid are, well, I'm not going to go into that. They control your metabolism, so your ability to burn off fat. The rate your body converts food into energy. Okay. Why is a healthy thyroid essential? It regulates the body temperature, keeps you from feeling constantly hot or cold. If you get ups and downs, that could be something that's off based on the clothes. Heart function influences heart rate and blood pressure. So then you got to wonder, could this stuff cause high blood pressure? They didn't say that. I'm just speculating here. So don't say Linnell said. We're just reading off Gemini right now. Okay? Heart health. Brain development and function. Crucial for memory, focus, and mood. Whew, this is getting concerning. Bone health. Maintains strong bones and prevents osteoporosis. Muscle control. Affects muscle strength and coordination. Weight management. Helps regulate weight by influencing how efficiently your body uses calories. Skin and hair. Healthy thyroid function contributes to healthy hair and skin. Digestive system, ladies. You know, I know that's important. Digestive system plays a role in proper digestion and bowel movements. The thyroid's important, man. Reproductive health. Essential for regular menstrual cycles and fertility. In short, a healthy thyroid is a well-functioning conductor of an orchestra, keeping all the vital processes in your body in perfect harmony. So let me ask a question based on that. Should you protect your thyroid? Yeah, I think so. I think so. Okay, so anything that impacts thyroid function, I should not be messing with. The other one where it says specifically around thyroid disease was PFAS, waterproof and stain-resistant clothing. So how do you minimize exposure? How do you minimize exposure? Well, I think this is where we have to go back to obeying God's word. It's that simple, right? We were told in Deuteronomy not to be blending fabrics. So stop blending fabrics. It's crazy how it came full circle. 2020, now to 2024 was like, wow. There we go. The big question I had has been answered. Opt for natural materials like cotton, which has 100% frequency. It matches your frequency. It doesn't change your frequency. It doesn't raise it. It doesn't pull it down. It just matches your frequency. That's why if you put on a nice cotton t-shirt, it feels so comfortable, right? Just 100% cotton. Wool, which actually has a frequency of 5,000. And linen, which has a frequency of 5,000. Again, that's why if you put on a linen shirt and linen pants in the middle of the summer, you feel so cool. 5,000 frequency. It raises your frequency and you're not worried about all these harmful chemicals. All right. Here's the other part. Look for certifications in your clothes. Select clothing that has been certified by organizations like the Global Organic Textile Standard, which is GOTS, right? Where it's like these are organic textiles. We're not mixing them with chemicals. They're not laced with all these things we just talked about. These are good clothes, right? I think about, Levi's jeans, like certain jeans where like they're like, hey, we take the time to make sure, but you got to be careful because, sometimes the cheaper jeans might not have that tag in it. So That's what we got to, you got to look and make sure. Or OEKO text, where you ensure that there are no harmful chemicals in the clothes, or even in, like, because not all cotton is organic, right? So it's like making sure that they're using organic cotton, just because it's 100%. Boy, I'm gonna tell you like this: cotton that's not organic has a frequency of 70. So at least it's not pulling down your frequency the way polyester is, or silk, or rayon, right? Somebody's like, did he say silk? I did. And it goes back to the scripture. I was like, there's another scripture that says something about fine linen. It's like, it's like it starts to make sense. Whereas like the creator is like, I've instructed you on how to live. You have looked over it. You've bypassed it and said, that's not that big of a deal. And now, so we're paying for it. Like, we're paying for it. Even then, I'll be honest, when I read that in Deuteronomy back in 2020, I didn't go change my behavior. I kept putting on the same clothes. I was like, I don't know why he said that. Why did he say it? I need to know why, right? Then I found out why, and I was like, man, I wish I had handled it right at the end. I mean, it's just... Wash new clothes. Washing new clothes before wearing them can reduce the presence of residual chemicals. So wash your clothes. And last but not least, avoid stain resistant. It's hard to do because now, if I wear a white shirt on a business trip and I don't really drink coffee, but let's say I was tired that day and I did drink coffee, I might have to walk into the meeting with a coffee stain. Well, guess what? Everybody understands. More importantly, I'm not getting these chemicals in my body. So whenever possible, you should avoid clothing that is treated or stained, treated for stain or water resistance, because these treatments often involve the use of PFAS. When I first started, making T-shirts, the inspired T-shirts and things like that, one of the things that I wanted to ensure is that, and I didn't even know this back then, but it was just good fabric. Like if somebody buys it, I want to make sure it's good fabric, good 100% cotton fabric. And people have asked me, Linnell, why are the shirts so expensive? Some of you have gone to the website, looked up if you can buy an inspired T-shirt or Today I Choose Progress T-shirt or Slayer Goals T-shirt, any of these T-shirts. Like, why are they so expensive? It's like, well, because it's 100% organic cotton and it's just more expensive. And I just didn't want to make the shirts in polyester. I didn't want to do that. I'm so happy I didn't, because I don't have to go and email everybody that bought T-shirts and say, hey, because I mean, that's something that we would do as an organization. Like, hey, I just want to let you know you shouldn't wear that T-shirt anymore. Maybe give you a discount. We don't have to do that. If we sold you a T-shirt, it was a good organic cotton T-shirt. So thank God for that. I wear them every Sunday. I wear them throughout the week. And so if you don't know where to go, I guess this is a shameless plug that you can always get them by going to LinnellHarris.com, shopping, and grab a T-shirt there. All right. So drop a comment, for those of you on Facebook. I'm going to check the feed to see if there are any questions. It's hindsight is always 20/20. It's always 20/20. And I think I'm starting to question a lot. Somebody said Lululemon. It's like, yeah. Somebody said Piley and Esther are some mean sisters. That's funny. I'm just looking at these comments, but it's I don't know, man. The other thing that I paused is if you go back and you look at shows previous to 2023, you notice that I was wearing a smartwatch. And I stopped that too because of EMFs. And I'll say this. I I think we're at the beginning of the technology that's about to basically begin to evade and invade our homes. I think we're at the very beginning. Like, if you think that we're surrounded by technology now, I believe that in the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to be in every facet. Like, you won't be able to buy a vanity without a smart plug. It's going to be able to plug, or it's going to be able to read Bluetooth your phone, and while you brush your teeth, the weather come up. Like, all that's it's already developed. Most of the time, the reason you don't have it is because companies want to make sure they get the investment off the product that's on the shelf. That's the reason you don't have it, right? So they just kind of delay it. We need to get our money back on the new stuff, the stuff we put out in 2023, 24. And then once we get our money there, then we'll put the new stuff on the shelf. That's how it goes. I know that from being a retailer and merchandising. Okay. We have to get really thoughtful and practice wisdom in terms of what we adapt. Is the smartphone? There's a scripture that says everything in moderation. I'm with that. Is the smartwatch all bad? I think it's phenomenal for my workouts. I wear it to the gym. I still wear it to the gym. I get up in the morning. I charge it the night before. I get up in the morning. I put the smartwatch on. I go to the gym and do my workout. I shower with it on and get all the sweat off, and then I put it back up. I don't wear it all day. And what I did was I just invested in some nice watches, like old school, analog, where I was like, I'm going to wear these watches instead, and I'm not wearing my smart watch everywhere else, and there are nice watches at every price point. If you can afford a smartwatch, you can afford a really, I was looking at this $700 Seiko. They brought back one of the, I like watches, but it's $700. It's a beautiful watch. A smartwatch is $800. I mean, so get yourself, just notice how we're being marketed to. We're being marketed to. And so a lot of what we want, a lot of the things that we desire is because of what we're being marketed. And so instead, I think we have to get to a point where we're like, hey, what's going to allow me to live the life that I intend to live? And just because everybody else is doing it doesn't mean I have to. And I don't know why all these scriptures keep coming to my mind, but there's a scripture that basically refers to my people will be, you can basically tell them apart, right? And a lot of times it's used for modesty. I still believe that modesty is a thing. I think that's, especially in today's world, my goodness, in the world of sexy red and modesty is a good thing. But I also believe it's going to be in terms of not just modest dress, but how you dress. I'll tell you something. For a long time, we might have giggled at the Amish. If you're in Pennsylvania driving and you see them in their little horse pull cart, and you go, oh, look at these guys. They're so far behind. And after I got done doing this research, I thought about our Amish brothers and sisters. And instead of thinking they're so far behind or chuckling about the way they live, I started envying them in some ways and thinking, wow, how far ahead are they? When you look at the poison in our food, when you look at the poison in our environment, when you look at the poison in our clothes, all of a sudden, a horse-drawn carriage and a farm with chickens that you take care of, milk that you squeeze, doesn't seem so bad. And it all is a matter of perspective. I think it's a matter of perspective. And as a community, I think that we can learn something from them. How can we begin to become more self-sufficient, selling each other good, clean clothes, selling each other good, clean food, selling each other good, clean products, from toothpaste to hygiene care, you name it. I think the opportunities are out there. And so, question is, will we do it? Thank you for watching Inspirational Perspective. If you love this show and you want to see more content like this, you can go right here. And if you like this subject and you want to see much more content that we have available for you, just click the button here. As always, thanks for watching. Be sure to watch the show live, 7 a.m. every Sunday morning on WVON Radio, or you can catch it right here on YouTube or Facebook.com/Coach Liddell Harris. Be sure to hit that like button. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe so we can get more content just like this to you.